Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jen-Hsun Huang.
Hello, LA! Welcome to the first ever 24-hour celebration of PC gaming. What do you think about that? It's great to have all of you guys here. We've got a lot to tell you, so I'm going to get right going. Boy, there's a whole lot of stuff to show you guys today. As soon as I flip this chart, we're going to kick it into turbocharge. Okay? Now, before I get going, the important thing is several. We're going to do this 24 hours. We're going to do it around the globe. We're kicking it off the whole day from here. But there'll be events going on in London, Stockholm, Shanghai, and there'll be pop-ups all over the world. And we're all going to be streaming live. Okay, so it's going to be an enormous day. We're going to have product announcements. We're going to show you technology you've never seen before. Yeah. I might even show you a few things you don't understand. Just crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. I mean, let's face it, this is one of the most exciting things we've ever done, and that's why we're doing this way. All right, so let's get started. Gaming is huge. Gaming is huge, and we're all about gaming. Today is all about gaming. There are hundreds of millions of gamers around the world now. People thought it was a fad. People thought it was a waste of time. Not us. There are hundreds of millions of gamers. There's a couple of hundred GeForce gamers around the world. And it all starts with great games. Game is adventure. Game is art. Game is puzzle. Game is competition. Game is social. Game is sport. From absolutely nowhere, just a few years ago, there are now over 1,000 tournaments each year. Stadiums packed full of people. Prize money, over $1 million. Professional gamers, professional teams training, living together, playing 24/7. And the reason for that is because people are intense about games. They love to game. There's skill involved in gaming. There's ability in gaming. And let's face it, those who are dedicated to it are just better than everybody else. It's more than a sport. It's a spectator sport. Never thought I'd see the day where other people watch us game. Where other people watch us game. It is so fun. It is so fun. It's so amazing that people are tuning in all over the world, watching Twitch. 55 million viewers in a month. Crazy talk. Absolutely crazy talk. More people watch League of Legends Champion than all of the NBA Finals. I love LeBron, but we're bigger than LeBron. I love Jordan, but we're bigger than Jordan. We're in LA. I wasn't going to say that last part because we're in LA. I want to be able to get out of LA. I love LA. Gaming is huge. Gaming is huge. And we love gaming. I love what we've built together. It's taken us about 20 years to get here. I love what we've done together. We did it all together. We own this. Thanks, you guys. Our promise to you is number one, to build the most advanced platform in the world. We dedicate ourselves to delivering on that promise every single day. We hire the world's best engineers. engineers whose lives' work is computer graphics, engineers who dedicate themselves, backed by billions of dollars of R&D, to build the world's best GPUs for you. We want to build the world's most advanced technology platform. But we also know that in the final analysis, it's about great games. It's about amazing games, beautiful imagery, amazing experience. That's not possible without just a lot of mathematics. One of the things that you'll see today is all of the things that we've enjoyed up to now, recognizing that computer graphics is one of the most computationally intensive fields in computing. It's all about mathematics, and we're going to show you a lot more in mathematics today. We want to make it so that you can play in more ways. It's not just about sitting in front of your PC. It's not just about that. It's absolutely about that, but it's not just about that. We want you to be able to enjoy in 3D. We want you to be enjoying surround. We invented Game Stream so that you could stream your PC game to TV if you want. Stream it to your mobile device if you want. If you had a Shield, you'll be able to stream it all the way out of your house if you want. We have other ways we would like you to be able to enjoy your games. One of our newest ways is G-Sync. Really, really excited about the invention. Our innovation is now extending beyond the GPU, beyond system software, all the way out to the PC, into the monitor, making it possible for you to enjoy just silky smooth graphics with a revolutionary technology called G-Sync. We have so much more that we want to share with you. And then lastly, it's PC. It's open. It's for everybody. Everybody gets to play. We make our experience wonderful. Whether you have a basic PC with a GeForce inside, all the way up to a water-cooled quad SLI driving multiple 4K monitors, a PC that costs more than most average cars. We want you to be able to enjoy great games irrespective of the computer you have in front of you. To make it possible, hundreds of engineers at NVIDIA work around the clock to test every single permutation of your PC, every single game, and find what we call the optimal playable setting. And for you, all you have to do is make it one click, and bam, you're enjoying that game as good as it possibly can be enjoyed on your PC. Everybody gets to play. That is our promise to you. Today, we would like to continue, extend, raise the bar in that promise to you. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to talk about Maxwell. Maxwell to scientists is one of the three most important scientists in the history of mankind. You know that Maxwell formulated Maxwell's equation, the laws that unified electricity, magnetism, and light. What is generally recognized as the second unifying law of physics, the first one going to Newton. Because of his work, because of his unifying work, groundbreaking work in the 19th century, it laid the foundation for quantum mechanics, for special relativity. I can hardly imagine a more worthy scientist to name our next generation GPU after. Maxwell. There are four things I want to talk to you about. There are four things I want to show you. The first is the processor. What is called the Maxwell SM, the Maxwell Streaming Multiprocessor. You know that we invented the general purpose processor of modern computer graphics. It's possible to, of course, compute all kinds of wonderful pixel shaders, make every single pixel, the scene, incredibly beautiful. We use it for physics. It's a general purpose, massively parallel processor. Thousands of processors are working in parallel, communicating over these fabrics and crossbars, working together to generate a result as fast as possible. The Maxwell SM. Everything starts from that. Making it as computationally efficient, as architecturally efficient, is the work of hundreds of engineers. In the case of Maxwell, we combed it up and down, and the reason for that is this. We had to make this architecture perfectly compatible with mobile. we had to bring it to Tegra as well. And as a result, energy efficiency was job number one. Well, it turns out today, in all of computing, we are power limited. So your architectural performance for energy efficiency is directly related to your performance. In the case of Maxwell, in just one generation relative to Kepler, we improved the architectural efficiency, the performance per watt, by a factor of 2. By a factor of 2. All of it because the engineers combed through every single processor, every single pipeline, every single network in the processor to wring out the last bit of architectural efficiency. Maxwell's architecture is 2 times perf per watt of Kepler. Second thing of the architecture, memory bandwidth is vital. To us, memory bandwidth is air. Memory bandwidth is air. In our frame buffer, we store textures, we store lighting information, we store bump information, we store all kinds of information, including the frame, the Z buffer. How fast we're able to communicate with that frame buffer directly determines our performance. In the case of Maxwell, we've now implemented our 3rd generation of delta compression. Basically what that means is this. Every single color, as we're writing it out to the frame buffer, every single value as we're writing it out to the frame buffer, we compare it to the last value we're about to write. And we simply write out the delta. We simply send the delta. Imagine if I were talking to you right now, instead of every single word after the first word was just the delta of the first word. First of all, it would be incomprehensible, but it would be highly compressed. It would be highly compressed. As a result of that, that last scene that you just saw, everything that's pink was compressed. We literally compressed away everything that is now pink. That last scene, that last image, has been compressed into a little tiny frame buffer. As a result of that, Maxwell's memory interface was able to reduce the traffic by 30%. Reduce traffic by 30%. That's another way of saying, in just one generation alone, everything else being equal, we improve the bandwidth of our memory interface by a factor of 30%. Really, really amazing. The two things combined, the SM architecture efficiency, the memory bandwidth amplification. As a result of that, comparing Maxwell to Kepler, and whenever I compare against Kepler, I'm talking about GTX 680. I've chosen this for a second. I'm going to explain why I did that. Well, first of all, there are 10 million gamers around the world who bought into the GTX 680 class of GPUs. And it's been a couple of years since you've had an upgrade. And you're just waiting for that next awesome thing. You're waiting for the mother of upgrades. You're looking for the reason why. You've got to come back out, buy a GeForce, put it back into your PC, and kick some you know what. So I'm going to compare everything to GTX 680, our first Kepler. Comparing against Kepler across a large number of very challenging games, the performance, energy efficient, performance per watt of Maxwell versus Kepler is 2x. Unbelievable. Now, when you boil that down, I know it's crazy funny. It's ridiculous. When you compare it like this, it's actually amazing. So let me just read that off to you. Kepler, average frame rate of those games at 25 by 16, 25 frames per second, consuming 195 watts. In the case of Maxwell, 41 frames per second, but consuming only 165 watts. But you guys know what it means when you're energy efficient. You guys know exactly what it means when you're energy efficient. That's right. You invented it. It's a technology called overclocking. That's right, overclocking. This is going to be the mother of overclockers. You said it, I didn't. You know what? We are going to have crazy fans all over the world. In China, they call themselves N fans. Our fans here, we're awesome fans, are we? Yeah! Let's go nuts. Let's show those guys. There are fans in London. In fact, my family's over there kicking it off. They're fans in London. We're better fans than them, right? Yeah! All right, we love you all. We love you all. Fans everywhere. We know it's all about games. So what are you going to do with all of this horsepower? What are you going to do with all this horsepower in Maxwell? Well, create even more amazing special effects. You know that we have this team in our company we call the GameWorks Lab. And we have this engine, libraries, mathematics, algorithms, created by some of the world's best computer graphics engineers, special effects engineers, computational mathematicians. And they solve some really, really amazing problems, and they run those algorithms on our GPUs. We call it the GameWorks team. I'm so proud of these guys. I'm so proud of these guys. The work that they do is really about essentially creating doing for real-time computer graphics what ILM, what Industrial Light and Magic does for film. We know today that having a great and fun game is really important still. But production value matters. Production value matters. And production value, the exquisiteness of the image that you see, the beauty of the images that you see, how wonderfully it works, we expect it to amaze us generation after generation. We expect it to blow us away, just like we do when we go to a brand new movie, a newly released movie. I fully expect special effects that are utterly mind-blowing every single time. Can't wait for Batman versus Superman. I'm still kind of confused about who's going to win that. We have infinite power. Infinite power. Batman, all right. But one thing for sure, irrespective of who wins, the special effects are going to be unbelievable. Special effects are going to be unbelievable. That's what this team does. We translate mathematics into amazing imagery. Mathematics into amazing special effects. Now, one of the benefits of course, is long-term, not only do we get wonderful games, we know that it's impossible for artists to meticulously paint and create through art the real world. It is just simply not possible. We have to do it from first principles, and the first principles are the principles of physics. And so, let me show you some stuff now. Rev, let's show them turf. Well, you know what? No, it's okay. Go. Before you move, let me do this. Let me just describe, before you move, let me do this. I'm sorry. Before you move, let me do this. Let me just tell you what you're seeing. You know, usually, the way that grass is done is through large, expansive texture maps. And they prop them up as billboards. And the billboards of these texture maps are translucent, so that you see through it, except for the part that looks like grass. But we know that grass doesn't work like that. We know grass doesn't look like that. And when grass is made like that, unfortunately, it can't interact with nature. When the wind blows, when the sun changes its place in the sky, when you walk through the grass, when you roll around in it, when you throw boxes and throw things at it, we would expect the grass to, that's right, I know it's craziness. In order to do all this, every single blade of grass has been converted to geometry. In fact, if you look closely, every single blade of grass is a V shape of grass, and it's curved and fully tessellated. As a result of that, because it's just another geometric object, it behaves properly with everything else inside the scene. When you change the lighting, when you throw things at it, it behaves exactly as we expect. And Rev, did you change the light? Change the light source a little bit. Look at that. It all just works. Now, of course, here's the complicated part. The complicated part is how do you contain all of this incredible complexity and, of course, still have the rest of the game. Turf effects, brand new. Thank you, Rev.
Anytime.
We have an engine. It's called PhysX. It's the world's first, PhysX Flex is the world's first real-time unified physics solver. What that means is this. Whether it's particles, fluids, smoke, water, rigid bodies, flexible bodies, cloth, rope, whatever objects are inside that environment behaves according to the first principles of physics and is one singular unifying solver. Well, we've been able to do all kinds of great things we're going to show you in just a second, but there are 3 brand new special effects that are just utterly amazing. So before we start, let's show them just the physics solver in this done. And I'll keep talking. What you're looking at here is this. You're looking at a body of fluid, and it has objects in it. The objects have mass. The objects have buoyancy. When you drag it around, it has drag. It bumps into each other. When it bumps into each other, it behaves physically as we expect. You stir the water, it would do exactly what you expect. Now imagine if you're in some game, Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed, and you wade yourself into a lake, and it did just this, because every single atomic particle is performing according to the laws of physics. Every single performing to the laws of physics. How wonderful would that be? And so the unified solver, irrespective of what objects we're talking about, would simply behave according to physics. Well, if you behave according to physics, and if you're liquid, you have the ability to change phases, phase changing. Let's take a look at another demo. This demo is kind of fun. You can kind of imagine. Those 3 rabbits, first of all, are kind of like Jello rabbits. By simply changing the interaction, the force between the atomic particles, we can cause the object to change shape, change phase. Pretty fun, all right? Well, suppose we could do that, and we can continue to change the physics between the particles. What else can we do? Well, let's see. We could probably, what would this be? This is viscosity. That looks a little bit like milk. That looks a little bit like milk. Now, the thing that's really amazing is this. What you're looking at is, in the final analysis, visualization of mathematics. You're simply looking at the visualization of mathematics. Every one of those globs of milk or milkshake, depending on the viscosity that the Rev has selected, is just a particle, and that particle is colliding with other particles. Those particles, when they collide with other particles, have some amount of surface tension. There's physics between, there's field between, forces between those particles, and they behave according to what we would expect them to behave. Now, if it is so, we should be able to even go to the extreme and cause some of these particles, when they collide and touch each other, to not bounce off, but to stick to each other. And so maybe, Rev, why don't we do the next thing? Imagine if I were to throw some goo at this monster.
Huh? Oh.
If we could throw some goo at this monster, but instead of bouncing off, now this you guys know this is going to be a brand new BFG weapon. It's going to be a brand new gun, the goo gun. And usually it's going to, I believe this is what you call sliming them to death. Okay, all of this is made possible by the PhysX Flex unified solver. We treat everything like particles, like atomic particles. We give every one of those atomic particles physical behaviors, associate with them fields, force fields, and so when they interact with other particles, they do the appropriate things, just like physics does. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what we're going to do with the 2x increase in perf per watt, which will translate to 2x increase in perf over time. Thank you, Rev. Guys, that's Rev. Stand up, take a bow. He leads GameWorks. Him and his team do revolutionary work in the area of real-time physics processing. 4K experience. That was my first thing. Now I want to talk about 4K. Well, as it turns out, as you guys know, 4K monitors are starting to come down in price. The cost of resolution is decreasing very fast. And in fact, after 10 years of being in 1080p, all of a sudden, all the monitors are flying up in resolution. 4K is fantastic. However, while we're trying to increase the fidelity of every single pixel, we're also trying to make every single pixel more beautiful. When we make every single pixel more beautiful, we add more geometry to the scene, we do more special effects to it. Each one of the pixel that you see has much, much more math behind it. So when 4K comes along, and bam, all of a sudden, a lot more resolution comes along, we've got to find a way to deal with how to drive that monitor. On the other hand, there are many games that we play. League of Legends, Dota, Dark Souls 2. These games, they're basically running full out at 60 hertz. And when you put a Maxwell in your system, you're just going to run a lot faster than 60 hertz. And so the question is, how can we find a way for games that are already performance challenged, all of a sudden need to come to 4K, or for games that has plenty of frame rate already, how do we provide it with more fidelity? We're going to talk about that next. Well, the answer to that are two technologies that we've invented. One is called dynamic super resolution. Using processing, using image processing, what is generally known as computational super resolution is an area of research that has been around a long time. When you take photographs of images from satellites and through the marvels of image processing, we could figure out who it is that we're looking at from miles above the ground. That is computational resolution. Dynamic super resolution is a form of that technology. I'm going to show you in just a second. The other technology we invented is called multi-frame sampled AA. MSAA is the workhorse of anti-aliasing for the last 10 years. All of us run in MSAA mode the vast majority of time. It is the workhorse of multi-sampled anti-aliasing. It's a fantastic technology. Unfortunately, MSAA degrades your performance. And yet, we would like to have those fine edges, beautiful edges when we play games. So we've created two technologies that will contribute to helping you enjoy your game in 4K, using 4K experience. So let me start with the first one, dynamic super resolution. Basically, what it does is this. Suppose you have a 1080p monitor. The vast majority of us still have 1080p monitors. When you put a Maxwell in your system, you have so much horsepower. We will render your game in 4K, and we'll do an image processing pass to resolve that 4K back to 1080p, enhancing the visual quality pretty substantially, surprisingly. And so when you have if you have a 1080p monitor, you put a Maxwell in your system, well, you'll get to enjoy games this way. Tap, why don't we go to the demo?
Okay. So,
and, oh, go ahead. Do you want to do this?
Sure. So what you're looking at here is actually a game, Dark Souls 2. It's maxed out. It's got 4x AA on, and it's running, pegged at 60 frames a second. There's really nothing else to do to improve the fidelity. Now, what I want you to focus on is the grass, and you'll see just those tips of grass. They're kind of scintillating, textures are coming in and out. that's because the textures are actually not being sampled detailed enough. Using DSR, we can dramatically improve this look of the game. So let's switch to the DSR demo. And now Sean is doing a great job with the exact same setup, only now DSR is enabled. And if you look when he's panning, you can actually see the grass is much more solid. There's no more popping. There's no more texture problems. Both of these examples are running at 19 by 10. But on this example, we're rendering it at 4K, and then as Jen-Hsun said, we're sampling it down. So let's go ahead and do this side by side. And now on the left-hand side, it's 19 by 10 again, so I'm going to scroll around a little bit. And again, look at the grass tips. Focus on the fact that there's like this weird shimmer. Okay, that's not good. It's not supposed to be like that. Let's look at the right-hand side and do another pan. This is DSR. So the point is, we can dramatically improve the experience with people that have a 19 by 10 monitor using the power of DSR and Maxwell.
Wow, that's beautiful. Okay, good job, Tab.
Thanks.
Hey, round of applause for Tom Peterson, huh? He's the fan. He's got fan club himself. I'm one of his fans. Okay, so that's DSR. Well, here's the amazing thing about DSR. It's completely automatic. All you have to do is pop open GFE. It'll show you this resolution, basically the 4K resolution with a DSR behind it. You'll come to the conclusion very quickly you actually don't have a 4K monitor. Click it. Click it. That's why we added DSR. And if you're still not sure, click the I. And I'm sure the information bubble there will tell you to click it. To click it. To enjoy it. To enjoy it. And so this is wonderful. If you have League of Legends, if you have Dota, if you have Dark Souls 2, and we will test a whole slew of games. And whenever Maxwell provides frame rates that are just utterly fantastic already, we will render it beyond your native resolution of your monitor to as high as 4K, and maybe one of these days beyond, and then using image processing, move it back to the native resolution of your monitor. Fantastic, free benefit of having an enormous amount of horsepower. The second technology that we invented is called MFAA. MFAA.
Sorry.
MFAA, multi-frame sampled anti-aliasing. And that's how fast it is, MFAA. The way that MFAA works is this. Look at the right. Start with the right, 4X MSAA. It's the workhorse of anti-aliasing today. Basically, the way it works is this. If you look at the red line, which is the edge of a triangle, and in this particular case, the inside of the triangle is on the bottom. The inside of the triangle could be obviously on top as well. But in this case, the inside of the triangle is on the bottom, the outside of the triangle is on top. In MSAA, basically all we do is we mathematically calculate.
Yeah.
MSAA, we mathematically calculate which one, how many samples, how many of those dots,
I can hear it really loud.
how many of those dots, they're called samples, are inside the polygon. In this particular case, on the right-hand side, 4X MSAA, 1/4 of the samples of the lower quadrant is inside the triangle, and therefore we will blend 25% color of the pixel inside the triangle with 75% of the color outside the triangle. Okay, so that's called 25% or a quarter coverage. In the case of the next pixel on the lower right quadrant, 3 samples are inside the triangle. In this case, therefore, we have 3/4 coverage, and therefore that sample or that pixel that you see has 75% of the color of inside the triangle and 25% of the color outside the triangle. Well, here's the problem with this. In the case of MSAA, now look at how many samples we have to generate, more per pixel. Each one of those quadrants is basically 1 pixel, but we have to sample it 4 times. Every time you sample a line, you sample something, it takes some horsepower, it takes some performance. In the case of multi-frame sampled AA, the clever thing that we're doing is now on the upper left-hand, upper upper left, frame n-1. Okay, upper left, frame n-1. Notice we're only doing 2 samples. We're only doing 2 samples. But Maxwell is clever. Maxwell is one clever scientist. He samples 2 samples in one frame. He changes the sample position and samples the other 2 samples in the next frame. Then what we do is we take multiple frames and using, again, an image processing pass on our shaders, combine those pixels into the final result. Your eyes see no difference. Your eyes see no difference. Here's the beautiful thing. 4X MFAA has basically the quality of 4X MSAA, but it has the performance of 2X MSAA. That is the ultimate way of getting something for nothing. Okay? As a result of that, we can now deliver anti-alias images at a much higher performance. Let's take a look at that. And so in this particular scene, I'm going to focus in on that part of the window. Of course, there are sharp edges everywhere, and you know how we hate crawlies. There's nothing more frustrating than having a beautiful game and you're slowly panning across it and you're looking for that enemy to shoot down, and everything is creepy and crawly. Okay, nothing frustrates me more. And so, because we're so dedicated to make every single pixel as beautiful as possible, all kinds of image processing techniques are being applied. And so we're going to zoom into that little tiny spot, and now look at the 3 bands. The first band is no anti-aliasing. This is the classic example of the creepy crawlies. The edges are very, very sharp. Okay, Tom is going to give me a laser pointer, a virtual laser pointer. Notice the edges, and notice how crispy they are. As you pan slowly across it, those stair steps are going to start moving up and down the screen, and you'll notice that as jaggies. You'll notice that as jaggies. So the solution for that is to apply 4X MSAA, which is in the middle. We now sample every one of those pixels now 4 times, and we apply basically an image processing pass to it, and as a result, the edges are now a little bit smoother. But, you know, of course, it adds a little bit of blurriness, basically a form of filtering on edges. And then on 4X MFAA, notice on the right-hand side, okay, as Tom will show you, all of the edges, whether it's vertical, horizontal, slightly diagonal, all looks basically the same as MSA. In fact, there are many areas where MFA does an even better job, but on balance, it basically gives you the quality, the pixel quality of MSAA, 4X MSAA, at the performance level of 2X AA. Now, this is what it looks like. I took the same 5 games, same 6 games. On the bottom is Kepler. On the bottom is Kepler, GTX 680. The first green bar, the first dark bar, basically shows you the performance gains that comes naturally for Maxwell. Okay? So we expected it to be higher performance with Maxwell. But when you turn on MFAA, and that's the way that we want to play all games when you have a GPU the same class as Maxwell, when you turn on MFAA, the performance is dramatically higher. If you compare this generation to generation, we're getting 2X the performance boost. 2X the performance boost. Quite frankly, I don't remember the last time that architecture to architecture, we got 2X. I don't remember the last time this happened. So if you look at the numbers this way, it's even more dramatic. Kepler, with MSAA running at 25 by 14, gets about 25 frames per second, fully anti-aliased. Pretty darn great at 25 by 14 on all of those games that we just talked about. Maxwell, just out of the chute without MFAA, is 41 frames per second. Quite a nice boost. But all of a sudden, With MFAA, we get that extra boost to 52 frames per second. 2 times the average performance of Kepler. What do you think about that? So, first, 2 times the energy efficiency of Kepler. Then 2 times the frame rate at high resolution anti-aliasing than Kepler, which makes it possible for it to enjoy between DSR and MFAA, allows us to enjoy 4K experience, whether you have a 1080p monitor or you have a 4K monitor. 2x and another 2x. Well, the next thing I want to talk about is helping us enjoy games in more ways. G-Sync, SLI, 3D Vision, Game Stream, those are all examples of us continuing to innovate, continuing to push ourselves in helping you enjoy games using your PC in more and more ways. One of the coolest things that's happening right now, the convergence of all kinds of technologies, one of the coolest things is VR. How many of you guys have heard of Oculus? There's not one day that goes by you don't see some grandma on YouTube using Oculus and reaching out. It's the coolest thing ever. Well, we have a new platform, new SDK, new technology called VR Direct. VR Direct. It comes in 3 components. The first component is auto stereo. You know that we've been working on 3D vision for a long time. We have the ability to re-render the frame so that it appears in 3D, left and right eye. The second thing is the bane of existence of VR is latency. It causes you to feel nausea. It creates a great deal of discomfort. Through all kinds of techniques, we have reduced VR's latency to a point where you can enjoy the living daylights out of it. And then number 3, a new technology called asynchronous warp that I'm going to explain in just a second, that reduces the latency even further. Now let me very quickly explain latency to you guys. From the moment that you move your head, there are 2 basic sensors that tracks the movement of your head. There's the gyro, it's being sampled at about 1,000 hertz. There's a couple of cameras that's tracking your head. The processing is relatively simple, but nonetheless, it notices your head tracking, head movement. That goes into what is called sensor fusion. I'm not showing that part here, just showing it as a dotted line. It's a few milliseconds. After that, it goes into the game. The game figures out what to do next, goes into the operating system. The operating system includes the system software, includes the API, includes the transfer of commands from the API out over the PCI Express bus into the GPU. The GPU renders it, performs all the processing as fast as it can. In this particular case, I'm showing that this person already has a fabulous GPU, so this person is already enjoying the game at 60 frames per second. After that, it gets scanned out to the display. Okay? That display is probably, in the case of VR, anywhere from 720p to 2K to hopefully 4K one of these days. And so how quickly you scan those pixels up on the display takes a little bit of time, about 13 milliseconds to make sort of refresh rate of the display. All of that added together is about 50 milliseconds. If you were inside a VR environment and the latency is somewhere between 60, 70, 80 milliseconds, it's intolerable, utterly intolerable. Between 30 and 40 milliseconds, you're having a great time. Between 30 and 40 milliseconds, you're having an absolutely fabulous time. So the first thing that we can do is simply through great engineering, comb through every line of code and comb through every data transfer and reduce the latency every possible place as much as we can. We've done that. Job number 1 is just careful engineering. And with just careful engineering, the obsession to reduce latency, we've taken latency down to about 40 milliseconds. The second thing that we've done is we know that the resolution is already challenged. And so we want to create the best possible pixel we possibly can. Most of the time you're running with MSAA. In this particular case, why do that? Turn on MFAA. You'll get to save a few more milliseconds. Well, now you're down to about 36 milliseconds. Through an extraordinary amount of just careful engineering, clever new technologies, and a really, really fast GPU, you've got yourself 36 milliseconds. You can now enjoy VR. And in fact, we've got a whole bunch of stations set up for you guys. We've got games that you have never seen. We've got demos that, well, our friends at, well, I'm not going to give it away. You guys go figure it out when you guys get out there. Some amazing tech demos that you have never seen before. And you're going to enjoy a brand new game in VR in a way that you have never imagined. You have never imagined. And so, number one, it's going to be fantastic. Well, we can take it even further than that, and that's this technology called asynchronous warp. The way asynchronous warp is this. The way asynchronous warp works is this. We've already rendered a frame. If we could predict where your head's going to be at, if we could predict where your head's going to be at, we might be able to take the previous frame and warp it so fast so that we don't have to recompute it. Okay? And so part of it has to do with projecting and predicting where your head's going to be at, but mostly it's about waiting until the very last second and recognizing that the fact of the matter is most of the time your head doesn't move that fast. Okay? If you were to move 180 degrees in 1 second, well, you know, a couple of times like that, your brain would be disconnected from your brainstem. And so most of us don't move that fast, and by taking advantage of this, and the fact that the latency is already so low, we could predict and at the very last second warp and put the screen up for you to enjoy. The fact is, VR is now here. The technology is sufficiently cost effective, the resolution is getting better and better, and most importantly, between the GPU performance, system software, and new clever techniques, we're able to get latency down really, really far, to the point where I believe this is going to be a really, really cool new way to enjoy games. Not for every game, obviously not for League of Legends and Dota and games like that, but for a lot of games I think it's going to be incredible. Okay, so VR Direct, what do you guys think?
We can hear you, Mission Giver. We can hear you.
Okay, I saved the best for last. I went as fast as I could so I could save the best for last. Well, since the beginning of time, generating a photorealistic image has been a grand challenge for computer graphics, for real-time computer graphics. The problem is, on the one hand, simple, on the other one, incredibly hard to imagine how to solve. And the reason is this. Well, it turns out that light behaves according to laws of physics, and when they bounce off of objects and surfaces, those surfaces reflect based on laws of physics. Maybe the object is extremely well polished, and as a result, the light bounces off of it, reflects off of it in a specular way, shiny way. Maybe underneath the rough exterior, there's a whole bunch of little micro bumps, and as a result, when light hits those little micro bumps, they shoot out in a whole bunch of different directions. As a result, it looks what we call diffused or soft. Okay? Well, those lights, when they get bounced off, goes to other surfaces, and they bounce off, and it goes to other surfaces. Well, let me just take a look at this example right up here. There's a whole bunch of little lights that are emitting light, those little tiny light bulbs. Light is also coming in through the windows. This room is incredibly hard for computer graphics. Very few large sources of very bright lights. Most of the lights are rather subtle. All the shadows are incredibly subtle. All the materials are rather different. And so they reflect light in very different ways. Well, this particular image is not a photograph. This particular image was rendered with NVIDIA's iRay. iRay is NVIDIA's physically based, otherwise physically simulated rendering system, and it runs on basically a supercomputer. This particular image takes several seconds, about 3 seconds, to generate. 3 seconds to generate. And it takes 150 GPUs. 150 GPUs, I know, it's crazy. 150 GPUs, 3 seconds. Those 150 GPUs are approximately 500 teraflops. So it takes a supercomputer to render this image slowly. Now, what we would like to do, of course, is to simulate, do the same thing in real time. We would like to do the same thing in real time. That is the grand challenge. That is the grand challenge. I'm super excited to tell you that although it will take quite some time to achieve this level of realism, we have found ways to simplify the problem, to approximate the problem. We've reduced the problem by several orders of magnitude, over 1,000 times. And the way that we solve that problem is instead of tracing and following pixels, light beams bouncing off of pixels, we simplified this scene into a new data structure called voxels. Voxels are basically cube data structures, and each scene would be decomposed, reconstructed using, we call voxelization, reconstructed into these little voxels. Imagine Minecraft. Okay? We basically take an entire scene and turn it into, we voxelize it. From there, we've simplified the data, the amount of data, from billions of pixels and billions of rays to millions and thousands. As a result of that, we could do things much more rapidly. The technology is called VXGI. I like the way it sounds. Voxy. Voxy is a good sound. VXGI, Voxel Global Illumination. This is a giant step forward in lighting realistic, photorealistic environments. It's dynamic. It's dynamic, no pre-baking. It basically simulates one bounce, and with just one bounce, we can capture the vast majority of the amount of light energy that as it bounces throughout the room. And because it's a general, unified algorithm for path tracing, we call it cone tracing. Okay, because it's a general algorithm, it treats diffused and it treats specular and reflections all uniformly. It's a unifying theory, if you will, perfect for Maxwell. And all of these capabilities simply fall out. And because it's designed this way, it could be integrated into engines like Unreal Engine and others in the near future. Now, let me show you how global illumination works by showing you a demo. Now, this particular demo is called the Cornell box. The way that the genius of this demo is this. It was created by Cornell, of course, and was intended to create a simple experiment to compare computer graphics to photographs. And so basically, as you can imagine, this is literally a Cornell box. In the case of Cornell, they would take a picture of it. In our case, because iRay is available to us, iRay rendered this image. As you can see, it looks photorealistic. Okay, there's several things I wanted you to look at before I switch the scene. The first thing I'd like you to look at is this. Notice that although the light is projecting downward, that the ceiling is lit. That the ceiling is lit. It's an area light, and it's facing downward. In fact, you would expect that the ceiling would be dark. The second thing is this. Notice the creases on the ground, basically where the red wall, the green wall, intersects with the white floor. Notice it's lit wonderfully. All the creases are lit wonderfully. However, if you go up to the top, you'll see that, in fact, there are these dark shadows there. That's called ambient occlusion. The light is facing down, projecting downward. The energy of the light doesn't make it all the way to every single corner of that room. And therefore, there's some creases that are occluded from the light. Ambient occlusion. The third thing I'd like you to notice is look at the sides of the balls. In the case of the left-hand side, it's bleeded some red paint. On the right-hand side, some green paint has bleeded onto the wall. And the reason for that, onto those balls, and the reason for that is because when light hits those walls, the red wall and the green wall reflect the light, and they become basically a light source. Okay? So I want you to look at these three, keep an eye on those three effects. There are others that I'll point out in a second, but look at those three simple effects. And now, Curtis, let's go to state-of-the-art computer graphics using direct lighting. All right. So a couple of things to notice. Notice the ceiling is dark. And the reason for that is because the light that's at the center of the room, as it bounces off the wall, bounces off the floor, never made its way back to the ceiling. We only rendered the light, projected out the light one way. There's no reflection of that light. Notice that the ambient occlusion on the top, look at that. Look, the corners are really dark. Okay? Again, the reason for that is because when the light hits the walls, they don't scatter around and find its way back up to those creases to light up the corners. And then lastly, look at the shadows. You would expect some light to go underneath those balls to light and create that soft shadow effect that you saw earlier. Let's go back to the Cornell box again, the iRay view. Okay, one more time. All right. Now, here's what VXGI does. VXGI, after it does the first direct pass, it will voxelize and simplify the scene. And from that simplification, treat it like it's doing ray tracing. And so it would cone trace, we call it cone trace for a simplifying version of that, and discover where the light would bounce off of and where it would light other surfaces. And so what we'll do now is we'll show you the indirect lighting component. Without the direct lighting component, we'll turn off the direct lighting component. This is the indirect lighting component. This is all the reflected lights. Now here's the interesting thing. Look at the ceiling. The ceiling now has a reflected component, so it's lit. Look at underneath the balls. The lights are bouncing off the walls and sneaking in underneath those globes. And then thirdly, look at the left red and the right green components of the light. Indirect lighting. Now when I combine it together, okay, this is now combined. This is combined lighting using Maxwell's VXGI capability, and this is the really wonderful part. So the question is, well, first of all, I think it looks beautiful. What do you guys think? The second thing is, does it look right? And so, of course, we can go and compare it against a physically based, simulation-based, iRay rendered image. Let's go back to the original. Look at that. One is in real time, one runs on a supercomputer, and the one that's in real time, Curtis, let's move the light around. I mean, that's one of the benefits of real time, right? If we don't have to pre-bake the light, we should be able to move it around. Oh, this is just fun. That's so beautiful, guys. Now, you know that we obsess about the beauty of the pixels on your behalf. What do you guys think about that? We drive ourselves absolutely bonkers trying to discover how to make those pixels more realistic, more beautiful. And look at this. Global illumination in real time using a brand new technology that came out of NVIDIA research several years ago, and through iterations and iterations of refinement made its way into Maxwell. The entire endeavor, some 5 years, and now we've taken a giant leap forward in interactive global illumination, the grand challenge of computer graphics. Now, on July 20th, 1969, 3 astronauts flew 3 days to the moon. When they got there, 2 astronauts, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, got into the lunar excursion module called a LEM and made their way down to the moon. The journey took another 2.5 hours. It was apparently a lot harder than they expected. With only 40 seconds worth of fuel, Neil lands the LEM on the surface of the moon. Michael Collins orbiting the moon, waiting for their return. Shortly after they landed, Armstrong left the LEM and makes the first step on the moon. With that step, one small step for man, one giant step for mankind. Shortly after, Buzz Aldrin makes his way out of the LEM and very carefully, without locking the door, the hatch, because as it turned out, they never designed a door handle on the outside, makes his way out of the LEM and down the stairs. What you're looking at here is that seminal photograph that was taken by Neil Armstrong. A seminal photograph taken by Neil Armstrong of Buzz Aldrin as they landed on the moon, as they stepped onto the lunar surface of Tranquility Base. Tranquility Base. Well, those photographs came back to Earth, and of course, to this day, still takes my breath away thinking about it. It was a step for man, but surely a giant step for mankind. But those photographs came back, inspired hundreds of millions, but at the same time, caused many people to be quite excited about whether the origin of this photograph was truly from the moon. There was good reason for them to question these photographs. First of all, when you look at that image of Buzz Aldrin, and you look at the shadows on the ground, the dark shadows, he's surely in shadow. If he's surely in shadow because the sun is on the other side of the LEM, how is it possible that he is that bright? Second, we know there's no atmosphere on the moon. And if there's no atmosphere on the moon, we should be able to see the stars. Clearly, they knew that we could very easily, through the positioning of the stars, determine whether they were actually on the moon. And the belief is that it must have been too complicated to line those up, so they decided to leave them out. It is possible that this photograph was taken here on Earth. Now, with the invention of VXGI, and through the extraordinary efforts of our engineers, we meticulously modeled the lunar LEM Here's the wonderful thing about the lunar limb. It's made out of aluminum foil, cloth, and a generous application of tape. It was a flying Coke can. No wonder Aldrin and Armstrong wanted to get out of that thing as fast as they could. It was a flying Coke can. We modeled every detail. We had to model every single detail. We modeled the surface of the moon so that we could start to study and test these mysteries and come to our own conclusion through scientific means whether it is possible, whether they did land on the moon. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to demonstrate to you guys now our work. Single little detail. Now, first of all, come on, fess up. You thought that was a photograph, right? That was a photograph. You thought that was a photograph. The first time I saw it, well, first time I saw it, it was rough. But by the time I saw the final works, I thought it was a photograph. It's really, really amazing work. The engineers modeled every little detail. And so let's go through and let's test each one of those conspiracy theories. The first one is this. Curtis, let's go to, let's assume that he is in shadow and that the only light source is direct. Well, this is what it would look like. This is what Buzz would, and this is what people expected him to look like. And the reason for that is because the sun is on the other side of the limb. And you can also see the shadows on the ground are perfectly dark. So how is it possible that he's lit? Well, as it turns out, we modeled the entire surface of the moon. We modeled the dust particles of the moon, and we learned this. We learned that the dust particles on the moon, which is created obviously from asteroids bombarding the moon, okay, relentless over billions of years, it's fine particles, and it in fact has reflective properties. Now, the reflective properties are not great. It only reflects about 10, 12% of the light that hits it. However, as in many type of dust particles and crystals, when a light hits it directly and you look at it from the same angle as the light source, the reflected light is multiple times brighter than it otherwise would have reflected. It's a phenomenon called opposition surge. Well, we simulated the properties of the moon dust, and as you can see, right now, the sun is behind me, the limb is beside me. Notice the brightness of the sun as it's reflecting off the lunar surface. Well, suppose we were to turn on VXGI, and we turn every single surface into a light source so that it reflects the light. Let's see what happens. Well, voila. Reflecting off of this lunar surface, the sun was able to light Buzz Aldrin. Well, that's mystery number one. Mystery number two is this. Why is it that while we're looking at him right now, we don't see the stars? Well, that's a simple answer. Turns out it's a simple matter of exposure. The light is so bright, in fact, that they had to change the exposure of their camera to the point where you're not over blindingly bright on the surface of the moon, while therefore you're no longer able to see the stars. And so what we did was this. In fact, when we look out into the sky, we've modeled all 84,000 of the closest stars around Earth that we can see from Earth. And if we were to change our exposure, this is what we would see. Now, Curtis, what would happen now if we were to look back down? Now, this is what they would have seen if they were to adjust their pupil and got accustomed to seeing the stars and then look back down. Everything would be so white, so bright, because of the sun's brightness reflecting off the surface of the moon. Now let's change the exposure again, please. Look how beautiful that is, huh? Hey guys, what do you think? Real-time computer graphics with real-time global illumination. Well, there's another conspiracy. This particular question was kind of interesting. Well, it turns out, can we go to the slide, please? When you look at this other iconic image of Buzz stepping on the moon, it's taken from a camera that plops down from the LEM. And it captured Neil Armstrong coming off the ladder, and it captured Buzz Aldrin coming off the ladder. The theory that this photograph was in fact taken on Earth was because some believed, that light source, that really bright light source beyond Buzz was in fact a light that they forgot or somehow mistakenly did not take out of the way when they took this picture. And so if we were to go back to our simulation, in fact, if you were to look at that, well, shucks, that's an interesting question. That's an interesting question. Until, if you were to figure out where Neil Armstrong was standing when he took the other iconic photograph, you'll discover that, lo and behold, there's a white object there. Well, here's the amazing thing. Neil Armstrong's spacesuit is made out of largely Teflon, a material called beta cloth, and it has a reflectivity of about 90%. All the light that hits Neil Armstrong, 90% of it bounces off. Now, you could just imagine how bright the sun is. Without being disrupted by the atmosphere, it lights up Neil Armstrong, and it helped us solve one last unexplained issue when we were working on this project. The one last thing we could never figure out is, why is it that when we compared, and now we've simulated everything to death. We simulate the brightness of the sun, we simulate the reflectivity and the material of the lunar surface. We've captured all of the geometry. We've put all the right materials into the lunar lander, and the lunar lander is reflecting off and also projecting its light on Buzz. We've modeled every little detail. Now, why is it that when we look at it, Buzz still seemed too dark? Well, it wasn't until we modeled Neil Armstrong and we put him in the scene that we were able to see the difference. How about let's turn Neil on and off. Off, on. Off, on. That little tiny detail, and we'll show you in just a second, is so compelling that we now understand why it is that Buzz was lit the way he was. Well, let's take a look at, let's step out and take a look at Neil and what he looks like. There's Neil.
Yeah.
Isn't that beautiful? The extraordinary detail that the engineers put into it is just really, really wonderful to see. And then lastly, let's compare the before and after. If you can go to slides. If you're not sure, the right side is the photograph. The left side is the simulation. What do you guys think? In the example of the Cornell box, I used essentially a photograph to test real-time computer graphics. And we continue to improve its capabilities. We added VXGI, and as a result of that, real-time computer graphics came awfully close to the image that was generated by iRay. Now that we have VXGI, we use the technology, the engineers use the technology to test against a controversial, iconic, seminal photograph that was taken in the 60s. Just incredibly fun. Now, one last mystery. I didn't even know about this particular mystery, and it turns out that we weren't the first ones there. That before Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin landed on the moon, there was somebody else there, and if not for the simulation, we wouldn't have discovered it. Curtis, if you could take me on a. We are not alone. So, ladies and gentlemen, Maxwell. There were 4 things about Maxwell that are utterly groundbreaking. The first is 2 times the energy efficiency, 2 times the architectural efficiency. And because of the performance made possible by MFAA and also the chip itself, 2 times the performance, which enables us to enjoy 4K. This is the first GPU that we have that connects directly to Oculus and other VR glasses in the future with VR Direct. Enable you to enjoy VR with your PC. All of that is going to be programmed and profiled and set up using GFE. And then lastly, the very first of its kind, a giant step forward for real-time computer graphics technology that makes possible real-time global illumination, VXGI. Ladies and gentlemen, the first flagship of Maxwell. You want me to throw it? It's a solid 13 pounds. GTX 980, the first Maxwell flagship GPU. We're so incredibly proud of this. This is really, really a giant step forward for us. Thanks, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Curtis, part of our content technology group. I have a feeling because of his work on this and the team's work on this, they might show up on Discovery Channel, Scientific America, who knows? GTX 980, your first question is, how much does it cost? 2,048 cores, the fastest GPU in the world, even without considering MFAA. With that consideration, boosted even further, 4 gigabytes of memory, $549. The fastest GPU in the world. But we have one other. We do have one other. And this one is insane. We do have one other, and this one is insane. The GTX 970, $329. Utterly insane. When you compare these to GTX 680, all the millions of gamers with the GTX 680 class, you're now able to enjoy VXGI, 4K displays, direct connection to VR, and of course, performance, energy efficiency that is 2x that of Kepler. Unbelievable, $329. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank all of you. It is just incredibly exciting for us to launch Maxwell this way, the first of its kind. I love what we've built together with all of you. We've created a culture. It is global one at that. People are passionate about gaming. Gaming technology has made such a great contribution to society. The technology that we build here, obviously, used by scientists all over the world to advance science. But not only that, of course, in addition to that, of course, for all of you to enjoy playing games how you like to enjoy. Maxwell is really a giant leap forward. It is the work of thousands of engineers It's almost hard to imagine such an endeavor. NVIDIA has 9,000 engineers. It takes us about 3 years to build each generation. So when you put that kind of number behind a project like this, you absolutely can take a giant leap forward. None of this is possible. None of this is possible without the incredible talent of the engineers at NVIDIA, the great dedication they have in building amazing things for all of you. And of course, without your encouragement, none of it would have been possible. We made a short little movie to celebrate the engineers. I hope that you give me the chance to share that movie with you. It's something I'm very proud of. Ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy.
Maxwell is more than just another amazing GPU architecture. It's the result of years of dreaming throughout NVIDIA. The journey begins with an in-depth look at the needs, wants, and aspirations of our users. The plan is formed, and the architecture begins to take shape. We don't just focus on what's possible, but what we want to make possible. The time comes to put Maxwell's billions of proposed transistors to the test. The proving ground is a room full of hardware emulators the size of refrigerators. These machines simulate how the GPU will perform in the real world, giving engineers the insight to perfect every element before taking it to silicon. Concepts are tested, refined, and tested again. Technologies are invented and perfected. The future becomes the present. Powerful NVIDIA software brings the architecture to life. Every line of code is optimized to deliver superior graphics performance. Maxwell makes the transition to silicon in a state-of-the-art facility where the first processors are born, tested, and packaged. Hundreds of processors are rushed off to our headquarters for inspection. Our engineers work around the clock, evaluating every aspect of the processors to ensure the best possible performance. The craftsmanship extends beyond the GPU to every facet of the graphics card. Solid, sleek, stunningly beautiful materials and the highest grade components come together in a masterpiece of design and engineering. Every imaginable aspect of our cards is tested and tested again. The journey is nearly complete. The first GeForce GTX 900 series cards are created by graphics board partners and readied for enthusiast gamers around the globe. In 2014, Maxwell is introduced to the world, ushering in a new era of amazing performance and redefining what's possible. And in NVIDIA labs around the globe, a decade of dreaming, planning, and developing is underway, creating what comes next.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me, put our hands together for all of the engineers that worked on Maxwell. For them, for all of us, it is a work of love, it's a work of passion. We do it because we love it, we do it because of you. And today, I am so proud to announce Maxwell, a giant leap forward in computer graphics. I honestly believe this is going to start a new trend, and it's going to open up many of the possibilities that we've been dreaming about for a very, very long time. I hope you love using and enjoying Maxwell as much as we've enjoyed building it for you. Thank you very much, everybody.